Hi, I'm Dean Foley, and you're listening to the Indigipreneur Podcast, a show about Indigenous entrepreneurs, innovators, and leaders, and their inspiring stories. So on today's show, we hear how Darug man Dylan Mottlee from Western Sydney, who was a young Aboriginal entrepreneur in his early 20s, who actually sold his first business at the age of 17 and is now expecting to turn over $300,000 this year with his new businesses. So Dylan, you're in your early 20s and doing some amazing stuff, running successful businesses. Can you give us a bit of background on your first business, how you started it?
Yeah, so I had an online mobile phone shop. And what I realized quickly that was when the iPhone 4 started coming out and then the iPhone 5S and all of that. And I started realizing there was a market there for online mobile stores. So nobody really clicked onto that until around 2011, 2012. But I hit it early. And I ended up selling that business to a mobile phone shop, which is pretty big. I'm sure everyone's heard of it, but I can't tell you who. And they pretty much just acquired basically the database and the mobile site, which they had a lot more stock than me, so they were able to generate a lot more money. But it ended up well. And I also got royalties from that business as well for about 3 years afterwards.
Yeah, that's amazing. Are you able to disclose how much you sold it for?
Yeah, so I was 17. I ran that business for probably around 2 or 3 years, and I got it was around, after legal, it was around 55,000 clear.
Wow, and you didn't take off overseas and go on a mad partying trip?
Look, I was only 17 at the time. I just turned 17. So for me to even legally sell that business, I had to run it through my parents at the time in a way. So there was a lot to do with that. And I wish I would have just jumped up and ran off. But I was concentrating on business in the bigger picture, and I invested a lot of that money back into business.
Okay. And so you invested into other businesses that you're working on now?
Yep. So a lot of that went into self-development. So I was experimenting a lot, and entrepreneurship isn't one of those things that it just comes about. It's sort of you have to learn, and a lot of lessons were taught during that period. I learned a lot of stuff, and to do that, you also have to lose money. So using those lessons then is when I executed when I was around 19, 20 and started a business, and then pretty much using those lessons from earlier, to within the first 9 months, which was the end of financial year. We started 3 months into the year. We ended up doing 120,000, and that itself is a proven model.
And what's this business that did 120K now?
Yeah, so at the moment I'm selling technology items. So we've got a range of suppliers that we go through, and we've hit pretty much a really great niche there. And it all came down from strategy. So I ended up working out that there was a certain method of being able to get products a lot cheaper going through normal retailers, and it was one that not many people clicked onto. So I pretty much knocked on doors of big retailers, and I said, look, this is what I want to do with these products. Can you help me out here? And they were all for it. It was a fantastic idea, and it worked out for everybody else. So at the moment, we sell a large range of technology products, Mac makeup, everything's genuine. And we're doing really well. I think we're doing well over 3,000 individual products a year, and yeah, it's going really well.
Holy crap. So what type of products do you sell, technology-wise?
Yeah, so we look at a range of different products. We can either do it local or we can go by e-commerce. So we look at different avenues. One of the ways that we ended up getting into it was I'm always looking for opportunities. It doesn't have to necessarily be new products. So after around 19, 20 years old, I started realizing that the Facebook marketplace was a very valuable resource for buying, pretty much used stock, but high quality premium products such as Apple, MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, iPhones. This is where I sort of started to realize that if I developed some sort of algorithm that would notify me of certain products with a database attached to it, that if keywords such as MacBook Air or MacBook Pro popped up and some data in the background ran those numbers with a database that we thought those prices were in the middle of, then it would send us a notification. So if somebody were to list a MacBook Air for $500 and in our database we know we can get around $750, $800, it would pop up with a notification. And then that's when we start the negotiation stages where we'd buy products that way and resell them. And that business model was proven, and, we did well over $40,000 in the first year.
Holy crap. And what, if you don't mind me asking, what algorithm, what language did you build the algorithm on?
Yeah, so pretty much we tried to keep it as simple as possible, because I don't have a lot of programming background, but I do know of some stuff. Over the years, you just tend to learn, and you have to, fix problems yourself. But the whole point of it was to try and keep everything to a point where it was manageable. So if my programmer disappeared tomorrow, I needed to be in a position where I could give this program to somebody else if something happened, and they'd be able to come up with a solution to fix it. So in saying that, we ended up going with Python, and Python is very powerful but very simple. And it would just grab information, run it in the background, and it would continually do that without having, maximum computer output. You didn't need a whole heap of hardware to run Python scripts.
Wow, that's awesome. So did you do that by yourself, or did you have a partner in crime? Or?
Yeah. No. So everything that I do is the one-man army. It's pretty much an idea pops up, and that's for me to go out and start looking around at how we can come up with a solution. So a couple of valuable tips I could give here is, not everything is on yourself. So definitely try and manage your time in terms of, I outsource a lot of my work. So I've gone from doing, 18-hour days to sort of cutting it down where I've got, 4 employees now, graphics designers, web designers, and general customer service. And I've also got somebody here in Sydney that does a large majority of our warehousing and sending our products out. So that allowed me to give me a lot more time, but then I'd outsource a lot of the stuff. So programming, I outsourced to a Russian lecturer, university lecturer. He was very talented, but the wages over there are quite low. And just stuff like that, looking for talent and trying to manage that talent.
Awesome. And where do you find the talent?
Yeah, so we can look at different avenues, and you try and look for the most reliable. So as a small business, I'm not just going to be able to just openly throw away money. So looking at the safest options, places like Upwork, which is an outsourcing freelancer platform, is one of probably the greatest places you would start looking. It gives you a platform which is completely safe. And easily manageable. So, my employees have to log their times. I can see what they're doing. And it also gives you, how many clicks and types they've put in. So you can monitor their performance as well, which is super important. But just keep in mind, you always have to have that trust factor in there as well. So I trust everyone 100%. And yeah, pretty much Upwork's the place to be.
That's awesome. And how do you measure, how do you keep track on how everybody's progressing and in the workplace and what they're doing? You pretty much got a virtual team?
Yeah, exactly. So I've got a virtual team besides one guy here in Sydney, and the rest of them are offshore. The great thing about it is with technology like we're doing right here is that you don't have to be in the same place at the same time. You can manage it from anywhere around the world. So taking into mind, the quality of work, you can get some incredible quality of work. And I'm all for supporting jobs, but when you're a startup, you have to do what you have to do. And in saying that, the way that you manage them is completely online. So you can use WhatsApp, you can use Skype, you can use, TeamViewer to remotely log in. And we've got different systems that we use and continue to develop custom programs to increase our productivity and efficiency with the business.
When was that light bulb moment when you thought about, getting into business and starting your own business? Because obviously you're 17, but you maybe come from a family that, hasn't been in business before, maybe poor. How did you come up with I could be successful in business?
Yeah, I'm not too sure, and I couldn't really work it out myself, but thinking back, there were small little hints here and there, like payday back in when I was a bit younger. I remember I used to empty my mother's wallet, take all the forks and knives out of the top drawer, and pretend it was a cash register. So it's sort of, there's little hints there that business was always in there. But I then started around around 9 or 10 years old, we had a shop not too far away, and I used to pretty much run a service where if anybody wanted to get anything from the shop and they didn't feel like walking around there, they could pay me. I'd run around there, grab whatever they wanted, come back with it. And then it started, creating that thing in your brain where you realize that you have worth. Coming from literally struggle street, we didn't have money, we didn't have a car, we didn't really have anything. So anything was better than what we had. And that's when I started experimenting with drop shipping, and how could I make money without having money was the big question. And that's where a lot of research and knowledge had to start coming into it. And, you started, you're self-taught. It was also hard to gain support being 13 years old. So it wasn't until I was about 15 that I started realizing that, I could start doing stuff myself, and then buying products and selling them off. So yeah, back then there was, minimal restrictions. eBay didn't have to require you to have PayPal and whatever. And it was a lot more, it was easier to get into it. Now it's getting a little tough, but there's different avenues.
What was your motivation to keep going for yourself and community?
Yeah, great question. Look, I don't think there's there's nothing I can point out that's the actual motivation that kept me going, because I think it's just a variety of different things, where it'd be family or it'd be, self-worth, that, that you can make this happen. But I think it's more around the lifestyle. I'm just super passionate about business and entrepreneurship, that to me, it wasn't really around the whole, what kept you motivated. It was like, this is my life now, and this is what I'm doing on a daily basis, where, the same thing where it'd be, professional sportsmen, any given day they go out, they run on the field, and even during their downtime, they still want to play sport. They want to get outdoors. They still want to run around and be active. Business is exactly like that for me, where I'm not sitting on the computer and managing people and dealing with business itself. I'm learning, I'm reading about it, I'm still involved in it. So yeah, I think, obviously money is a great factor there, but money to me doesn't make me happy. My passion and business is definitely what makes me happy.
Yeah, same. I've got a massive, passion for learning and business. But have you got like a community passion too? Do you want to become successful to, be in a position to give back?
Absolutely. So, I was around 19 when I started to realize that community is a big factor. And that, when I started to realize that I can actually change things in the community as well. So that's when I started getting involved. I jumped on the board. So I'm a director of Aboriginal Corporation. And we help our families. We've done, we've signed memorandums of understandings with big corporates that led to, 100 Indigenous jobs being pushed out into the Western Sydney. We've had a lot of community impact and, welcome to country. And I try and get involved as much as I can. And all of this is 100% voluntary work. So anywhere I can, I try and get involved, any input I can give. And especially, working now with the big corporates as well. They're always wanting your opinion on certain stuff. Australia Day, Survival Day, all of that's a big political debate, and everyone wants your input about it. So trying to step up to that level as well is always difficult. Being a bit younger, people don't really see you as experienced and don't value your knowledge. So it's for you to sort of go in there and demand that, and show that you do know what you're talking about and you are getting involved with your community.
Yeah, how do you do that? How do you show, I guess, your value, the value you can add, without being disrespectful to people?
Yeah, look, great question. And it's always one of those things that's always going to be on the fence. There's no fine line between, what is respectful and what isn't. But at the end of the day, in your heart, you know what's right. So if you're going in there and, something's not right or it doesn't feel right, then you just speak your opinion about it. If it gets into a debate, then so be it. But at the end of the day, it's on the table and, the people around, if it's something that they didn't think about before, they're going to think about it now. And everything's a learning curve. And all of this is just a step forward into, creating a better community, especially for the Indigenous people.
Definitely. And for you, what have been, because you're still really young, like how old are you now? 20?
20, yeah, so 23. So yeah, look, age is one of those things. It's a defining factor. But I mean, there's tons of historic stories about, KFC or where it be, whatever else that, age is one of those things. Whether you'd be young, you've got 6-year-olds that are creating programs and robots. I mean, yeah, it's one of those things.
And then, KFC, old Colonel, or he was, when that came about, old mate was what, like over 50 or something crazy. So.
Yeah, I think it was more than that. And it just shows you, you can have whatever lifestyle you want, but at the end of the day, and I mean, even Michael McLeod is a great example of this. Message Stick CEO, he went from 40 years old, living out of a tent in Sydney here to running a $10 million a year business. I mean, it's just anything's possible.
Yeah, and he was struggling with drug addictions and all that kind of stuff too, wasn't he?
Yeah, I was, fortunate enough to be a part of the audience and he was a guest speaker there, and he was, talking about his struggles there. And yeah, drugs is one of those things that, really took over his life until he was about 40 years old. But, the great thing about him is he's so honest to step up and say, even still today, where, he's around 60-something years old, he still really struggles with the thought of drugs and the fear of going back. So, it just shows you everyone's got a reason to keep going forward, regardless of your circumstances and regardless of your age, that, don't define anything by normal social standards. Reinvent the wheel.
Mm. And talking about reinventing the wheel, not too sure how much you can disclose, but what have been some of the challenges, volunteering, trying to help out the community in business?
Look, it's one of those things where, unfortunately, in the big world, that the only way you can really measure success these days is by dollar signs. And in saying that, it's hard to get anything done without some sort of monetary support. Everything costs money to try and get everyone around a table at the same time, just say, for example, catering. So some of the difficult stuff that you could say is probably the lack of judgment by people, underestimating people's potential as well. For me, I'm only 23 now, but obviously, I've been in business for many years already. But face value, you walk into a room and people don't realize that until you start speaking. And I think that's one of those things as well. But people always have that little thing over you, is that age is a defining factor. I mean, a great example would be, being recognized as uncle in the community. There's no actual minimum age to be recognized as an uncle in the community. It's just people associate the word uncle with being older. And it's the same thing, probably people are underestimating, who you are, and definitely the age that you have is one of the most difficult things that I have to go through.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And in the startup world, in the business world, do you have challenges there too? Because obviously, I'm involved in the startup community up in Brisbane. Is there still, a bit of, stereotyping and that kind of stuff going on?
People do have their opinions, especially if it's got anything to do with the Aboriginal communities, especially if it comes out with some sort of monetary incentive, whether it be a government grant or whatnot. And people will always be speculative about that. So it's always going to be that big political debate. But in terms of that, I think with the Mark Zuckerbergs and, the Snapchat CEOs and the evolving generations of technology, I mean, anybody can become an overnight celebrity and sensation with, whatever it be, an app or just, a photo these days. So I think people are starting to appreciate the younger generation and their tech savviness. I think it's one of those things everyone needs to start getting used to, because it's not going away anytime soon. And I think, if anything, people start appreciating your input at a younger age in the business world. So it's a little different, and it's hard to sort of grasp between community and business, where one, it seems like it's the opposite end, in the community, sort of the younger you are, the less talented and experienced and the less input you're going to have. But whereas if you're in business, it's actually, if you're experienced younger, they want you more involved. You've got the energy to as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and with the youth, have you seen a change, with the next generation coming up in relation to technology and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm very proud to be part of the Career Tracker program, which is an Indigenous internship collab with big corporates. So at the moment, there's about 600 Indigenous interns across Australia that are university students and get paid internships during their holiday break. And I did this as, a massive learning curve as I'm just finishing my degree now, as well as working full time, but also to have my full time job off the side and then also work in the corporate world. We have some amazing and talented people working for us in the Indigenous communities. I mean, we had one girl working for Qantas that developed algorithms and saved Qantas over $12 million a year. And she was just a normal person like you or I a year ago, and now she's got a really great job at Qantas. She's graduated and she's really set the bar high for everybody. So stepping into a room where there's 10 or 20 career tracker interns, one or two of them is going to be entrepreneurial, and they are just the most talented and dedicated people. These people are just incredible. They're really, really great to network with, and I have made some absolutely amazing friends coming out of this, where in the business world, in 10 years, I can see them probably employing me.
Yeah, are you able to name the girl who did the algorithm?
Yeah, sure. So I am pretty confident, but don't quote me. Her name's Renee. I'm not too sure of her last name. But yeah, so she did a speech about it, and obviously with so much success around that, there's a lot of internal talk as well. But it's just one of those amazing things that everyone's proud of, where someone can show so much success. It's sort of it really sets that bar high.
Sounds good. So where were we? So for you personally, like, what have been, the one to three biggest challenges you've had to, get into business and run a successful business?
Yeah, so I would definitely say that one of the biggest challenges I had would be sacrifice. So as easy as it is for you to not come from anything and to have some sort of money to sell the business and come out with $50,000, it'd be very easy to splash that money around. But if you sacrifice short term, the long term gain is far more substantial. So by investing in yourself, which is one of the most important things anybody could do, whether it be going out hiking or knowledge, going to uni, whatever it may be, invest in yourself. But definitely the number one would be sacrifice. So going out at night and partying with your mates, or sitting at a computer and trying to get a business going. Look, it's going to take a lot of willpower. But at the end of the day, you're going to be gaining valuable knowledge and experience from it. And realistically, that method works. I can vouch for it 100%.
Nice. And have you got any tips with, keeping motivated and focus on getting the job done and building that business?
Yeah, it's all about strategy these days. Everything's strategy. So if you wake up in the morning and have nothing planned, the odds of you being productive is probably going to be low. Everyone sticks to a schedule. Everyone has their own methods of doing stuff, but try and stay within the means. So Trello is a really great platform to try and keep on top of stuff. There's other platforms like Asana, which is a task management. There's little things you could do throughout this experience to try and make it fun as well. Don't think everything's a task. I think that's one of the reasons why people pull out and burn out, is that everything seems to be a task when you can't make it fun. So by using software, you can sort of start working out smaller bits, chewing out smaller chunks, and ultimately getting the end result eventually rather than never.
Yes, so true. And And with investing in yourself, can you recommend, books or courses they can get into? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of, free online stuff so they don't have to break the bank. And then I've got a follow-on question from that about university, but we'll just do that one first.
Yeah, sure. So look, Gary V for me, Gary Vaynerchuk, and I've heard some of your other podcasters as well suggested Gary Vaynerchuk. He is just an absolute amazing person. He's very influential, but he talks from the heart. You're not going to really on a level understand people that are wearing Gucci shirts and designer clothing and for them to go out and make $1 million. This bloke just rocks a normal white or black shirt, tells you exactly what you want to hear, and there's no filter. And that's sometimes what you need. So Gary Vaynerchuk is definitely right up there. In terms of that as well, I think try and do it at your own pace. Some people don't like reading. I don't necessarily like reading. And people learn differently as well. So at any stage, don't think that you're doing it wrong. Don't feel guilty because you don't want to pick up a book and read. Just do it in your own way to whatever makes sense to you and to whatever, best equips you with some knowledge going forward.
True. And I noticed you didn't mention going to university. Is there a reason why?
Look, going to university is one of those things. I didn't go to high school, and it's very plain and simple. I didn't go to high school. I didn't. When I say that, I mean I didn't go from. I didn't do my HSC. I never went from year 7 to year 12 at all. So for me, university, I don't speak about it a lot as an achievement. For me, it's just a first taste of real education. So when I signed up to do a Bachelor in Commerce, it made sense that I would study business. But it made more sense that I was getting an entry-level education to me. So it's fantastic that my first taste of education is tertiary. But to me, entrepreneurship doesn't require a university degree. And that's why I'm not that, I don't speak about it that much, is because a lot of what I've done didn't require a degree, and it doesn't require a degree. The only reason why I am going to get this degree is because I didn't go to high school.
It's interesting you mentioned that because obviously some universities claim to be for the real world, but they don't really help in building up the next generation of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a short-term fix to a long-term problem, and that is it's very, very plain and simple. University does not teach you anything for entrepreneurship. It's straight. It's very, very simple. You can come out with a degree in entrepreneurship and not have a single clue how to effectively manage a business.
Yeah. So your advice is pretty much just go out there and do it?
Just go out there and do it, and that's my advice for everything. I didn't start university until I was almost 20 years old, and still now I am still, it's taken me 4 to 5 years to get this degree. And that's purely because I'm running a business that's doing really, really well. And I don't have to work the McDonald's job or the common, Domino's delivery driver. I'm earning decent money, enjoying what I'm doing. And then on the side, I'm doing university. That's how it should be.
True. And how many businesses have you got on the run at the moment?
Yeah, so we're looking at about 3 businesses so far. So I have Deals Online, which is an online technology e-commerce website. I've got Bungee Bacana, which is a clothing company we've got coming up. We're going to be doing some really cool collab with some really notable people, and I can't say them yet, but pretty much we've got endless amount of ideas that we're trying to roll with, and it just comes down to time. But we're running on 3 businesses at the moment and potentially looking at a 4th.
Nice. So you got Deals Online, Bungee, and what's the other one?
Bungee Bacana. We've just picked up a postal supply company. So we're working on getting everything sent over, and everything has started to come over. We're getting everything from overseas. But yeah, once all that hits, I'm going to be, going around to everyone that I've already networked with, and there's a massive gap in the market for this particular niche. So that's where we're going to be going with that one as well.
And how do you prioritize your time with, running 3 businesses?
Yeah, look, I definitely think by having people working for you, it definitely helps. It's one of those things that's sort of like, do you get, 6 or 7 hours of sleep, or do you, want to set yourself up long term? It's one of those things. Look, everyone has a different way of doing it. At the end of the day, um, I try and multitask as much as I can. I mean, in saying that, I do have a life, I do socialize, and I do watch movies, but it just means I do it differently. So I've, got my laptop there, or I've got something that I'm doing, whether it be, filing papers or whatever it may be, or even just looking over a textbook for uni. I'm always multitasking, and that's something that I enjoy doing. So, just simple stuff like if you're sitting on the bus, public transport, or in a car, why wouldn't you sacrifice listening to a couple of your favorite songs for your university lecture? So that's something you don't have to do later. You're already up to date with your uni, or everything that's going on at uni, and it's pretty much, you're not really doing or taking time out of anything. You're sitting in traffic or whatever it may be. So it's more effectively trying to manage it to a smarter degree of your time.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense, and like you said, you're very passionate about it anyway. So it's not like it's a job or anything. It's you're just extremely motivated, and I'm sure if the average person has a look at where their time spent for the week, and most of the day, probably a lot of it's on TV and doing stuff that's pretty worthless anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Social media is one of those things, and it's sort of you catch people out where you're sitting at a dinner table and all three of you are sitting on phones, and it's not about comparing or who's doing what better, but when you're scrolling through a Facebook feed full of pointless stuff and advertising, and you sit there and you really wonder what they've just gotten out of that, you come back to the thought process that there was literally nothing gained out of that. You've seen some memes, you've watched a video that you've probably never going to reference again in your life, but yet I'm sending emails that are creating and generating jobs and money. So when you compare it like that, yeah, you definitely have to really start watching, and you would be surprised how much you waste time unconsciously just by picking up your phone and scrolling through Facebook or whatever it may be.
It's a funny point too, because the ex-CEO, even he came out and said the negative mental effects from using Facebook. It's not only are people wasting time, but, it's not good for their health.
Oh, no. Look, we're absorbing too much information too fast. It's very simple, and look, it's one of those things that when people say stuff like that, you got to watch Facebook stock, because it starts going down, people panic, and they know that Facebook's massive for marketing, and yet they want to reinvent the world now by changing and trying to make it more personalized because there's too much advertising. And to me, they've already that the opportunity to try and go back on that, I think, is too late. Your brain is now programmed and has been programmed for the last 3 or 4 years to see adverts and videos and stuff in your feed. So I don't know how people are going to adjust to that, but yeah, I think one of the biggest things is your mental.
What happened there? You get out of the building or something?
Yeah, so at the moment I'm staying in a hotel, and yeah, I think they're probably just running some tests.
Because we don't want you to get hurt just to do the podcast.
Look, you got to do what you got to do to stay motivated, and for me right now, this is my priority.
So yeah, let's talk more about deals online first, and then because obviously what you're earning, predicted to earn a couple $100,000 this year alone.
Yeah, so that's our total sales. So pretty much, basically, we're looking at increasing through technological advances. So we're working out methods slowly, for example, that for me, it's always a really, really cool and fun experiment. So to me, business isn't like I've got a goal that I need to achieve. This is like I'm having fun with it. So money for me isn't a massive thing. I don't just, it's not something I need to lavish out or show people. It's sort of like I can experiment as much as I want. So I've got custom software for a majority of anything we do. An example would be, going through one of our platforms, which is eBay. We did over $150,000 in sales last financial, just eBay alone. And one of the cool things about it is we have custom, HTML templates, make it look $1 million for a small business. But then we started realizing that, to create one eBay listing was taking about 8 minutes. And I wasn't happy with that. I'm not happy with that because we've got hundreds and hundreds of listings, and it's not viable. So I went out, did some brainstorming, talked to some people, ended up coming up with some custom software, and we took 8 minutes down to 3 minutes. And to me, that makes more sense. And there's nothing different, the same quality. You're not also decreasing jobs either. You're actually increasing jobs.
Apologies for the interruption. Dylan actually had a fire alarm go off at the hotel he's staying at and had to evacuate. Some people say entrepreneurship's easy, but you literally get fires popping up everywhere and you just got to put them out. So we'll continue the conversation straight after this little break. Hey mate, glad you're back and you survived the fire. Before we were interrupted, let's just go back. I think you mentioned that you decreased the listing time quite substantially. Could you talk about that?
Yeah. So for me, it's all about productivity and efficiency. So why would you not create something simpler where you're wasting 5 minutes every single time you post something? We've got over 250, 300 individual listings. So you think about the time there. Another way that we implemented technology to increase our productivity is we would use a banner and a footer in our images. So when you would search an item, just say for eBay, the images that are displayed would have big logos, with it'd be promotional, or, we're just pretty much promoting our own business, 100% Australian owned, operated, express post, whatever. We had a graphics designer that would go through and manually edit these, and whereas we just got some custom software built where it inputs it automatically using artificial intelligence to find out exactly where the image starts and finishes, and then it inputs the header and banner into it as well. That saved us, ridiculous amounts of time and money in photo editing.
Nice. Do you go through, pretty random, but do you go through a set process when you're looking to systemize this work?
Yeah, absolutely. So we always go through this whole, it's called the MVP. And pretty much what we do is we try and do micro MVP for everything as well. So the minimum viable product is pretty much trying to get and push out a product, a piece of software in this instance that is very, very effective, that is low cost, but efficient. So we look at the pros and cons. How much is it going to cost us for a graphics designer? How much is it going to cost us for some software? And I mean, the software that we're implementing, for example, to give real world scenario, cost us $350 from an Australian software developer. But I also enjoyed it because he was also an upcoming software engineer. So to give him that support as well was also fantastic. But yet we waited up and we're thinking, okay, we'll pay the wages over 3 or 4 weeks, and you've already, you've already paid for the program. So now we've got, been in business for, at least 2-3 years now doing deals online. This is going to last, for as long as we want it. So yeah, using the MVP model to go through and make sure it's cost analysis.
Nice. And is there a book for that, or do you use an online platform to help track the MVP product?
Yeah, so pretty much I've been involved with a lot of products in a lot of businesses now. So pretty much because I'm a sole trader and work for myself, I've got it in my head. I know exactly what needs to be done. Using Trello is a fantastic way to monitor the micros of it. So if you need to contact people, if you need results, if you need to actually look at certain codes, APIs, anything like that, then that's a great way to manage everything. But if it's a smaller project where it's just you and somebody else, it's pretty easy to manage. You just sort of got to weigh up the cost benefits as well as the overall productivity and efficiency of the end product.
Awesome. Good to hear. And just curious, could you tell us a bit more about your other businesses on the side?
Yeah, sure. So the businesses on the side it's always, it seems to come out of, you can, like I said before, you can go to uni and you can study entrepreneurship, come out and not have a single idea of what business you're going to start, not have any cash flow and really have no experience. So what are you going to do? So what I've developed over the businesses that I've created is new businesses. I've seen gaps in the market, niche markets, opportunity. So I've just gone through and created a postal company, pretty much, postal supplies and whatnot, because I've seen a massive gap in the market. I see that, we're Australia, 26 million population, but yet everything's so overpriced. Makes no sense. So why not buy in bulk? Why not supply direct to the customer, where it'd be, the smaller sellers that make up, I think, like 80 or 90% of the Australian businesses, and not concentrate on the big guys, because that's what everyone seems to be doing. And to me, it's a viable product. So, making a postal supply company that we've put together, and invested a lot of money in, means that the Australian small businesses is able to benefit from this. And this is all due to a coincidence of, finding a gap in the market just based on what I'm doing already.
Do you think that's key? Because I guess there's that stereotypes of getting handouts all the time, but, you're breaking these stereotypes and actually helping build Australia's economy as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty great thing to look at it that way. It's also great sharing that culture as well, and trying to break that stigma that, the whole Aboriginal side of it is, high incarceration rates or whatever it may be. And to actually show the talent that we've got, and there's so many potential people out there, like Renee from Qantas, that we just need an opportunity. And for me, it's sort of not needing the opportunity, showing people and shoving it down their throat, pretty much. And that's the way that I like to get stuff done. It's sort of, you demand the respect and you do it fluently because you've got everything backing you.
So true. And could you tell us a bit more about your postal delivery business that you're starting up?
Yeah, no, sure. So pretty much what we're seeing was a gap in the market for materialistic stuff. So whereas if you're getting bubble wrap and stuff like that, you can jump on eBay and buy it for $30. The postage on that wouldn't be that much. With a fast way or whatever, it's probably $6 to get it delivered. But how much can plastic and air actually cost? And that's the big question. So we're able to sort of look at these different markets and analyze them, and pretty much see what we can start looking into. So we're looking at postage satchels, which is a big market. And the reason why I actually got into postage satchels was due to the unfortunates of learning that there's the postal system at the moment isn't foolproof. And an example of this is when I would to post items, there was a promotion, and we're a massive seller on eBay, so they give us a lot of promotional stuff, and eBay has their own custom satchels. It's got eBay plastered all over it. But what we noticed is we're sending them in these satchels, these custom ones. They're a little bit cheaper to use, but 2 out of every 10 of these parcels are going missing, and no one can work out why. Pretty much it's just got a big sign on it saying, do not deliver, So you get the point, and we lost a lot of money on that. So we reverted back to plain packaging, and what do you know? Everything 1 in 100 is, unfortunate, misdelivered or whatever it may be, but not 2 in 10. So this is where the idea came from, where we're going to create some really cool different stuff, but we're also going to make it low price so it's competitive but doesn't have the big "you should probably take me" sign on it.
Oh, that's amazing. And I actually got a little story. Like some people think, oh, but Amazon's doing that, they're so good. I ordered on Amazon recently stuff from America, and about $1,000 worth, and everything got lost. So
yeah. And see, like, that's one of those things. That's one of those unfortunate things, and that teaches you a valuable lesson. One of them would be, if you needed the equipment that was inside of it to a deadline and stuff like that, always have a plan B. And really that's what you have to do in business, is just keep learning from those mistakes and make sure that you're on the ball with it.
Definitely. But yeah, I can definitely see there's a need there. I mean, it's a massive problem, losing parcels all the time. So.
Yeah, exactly. And trying to keep those costs down low for the small businesses is probably one of the most important things there. That's the biggest target, is trying to keep everything competitive, where everyone's having a good time, having some fun with it and earning some money.
That's awesome, man. I'm really looking forward to being one of your first customers for the parcel delivery business. I definitely need it after the last Amazon experience. So could you touch on the new clothing business that you're just starting up to?
Yeah, so Bunchi Pekana is an offshoot of Indigenous Clothing Co. So Indigenous Clothing Co. has got about 3,000 likes on Facebook, generated organically. And it just shows you the large market that is ready there, and the support we have from the Indigenous people, which is just amazing. So we haven't actually pushed out any particular products yet, but what we've been doing is marketing a couple of the local artists. And our average likes on any post that we put up is around 600. And that is huge, because they're all organic public likes. So we're looking at pushing through some sports where I've had a couple of talks with some really, really big people in the sporting world, which is, Classic, which is a large brand. And we're working out ways how to make it cost effective. Obviously, we're trying to make the appeal so you don't have to be Indigenous Aboriginal to wear what we're going to be making, but we encourage everyone to be wearing it. So we're going to make some cool twists, whether it be, just putting it in casual wear or into sporting, which is a massive market, and really something I'm really proud of twisting with it, that collab between sports and Aboriginal clothing. But yeah, we're in talks with getting some major companies on board. I've got the support of Insurance Australia Group. They're willing to put up some support there as well and try and make that happen. So yeah, look, this is something that we're going to be looking at putting forward this year. That's my big goal, is pushing out a couple of products and seeing what we can do here, and try and get some really big brands on board to see if, how we can collab with them as well and use their experience and their sources to sort of cut costs to make it affordable for everybody.
It'd be really cool to see how that progresses. Is there a reason why you went specifically for the sporting niche market? Or?
Yeah, and it's a very simple one. The Indigenous All-Stars game. Every year, you go to the local shops about 5 days after the Indigenous game is over, and you cannot find anything. And that just shows you the amount of support there. I was just casually scrolling through there, wanted some of their training shorts, and couldn't find it anywhere in New South Wales. Everywhere's completely sold out. You go online and the prices are being hiked up $20 or $30 each item. And that's fine, but it just shows you the overwhelming demand that there is for this potential clothing. So you've got brands that we're going to be directly competing with, and this is just a little subliminal warning for these brands, that we've got Lifewear and whatnot that they're doing pretty well, but we're definitely going to be coming with and doing it a lot better. We're going to be implementing technology that is just going to revolutionize the way that the colors come out, the way that using technology to really make it a true statement of both collab of Aboriginal art and also our culture.
Awesome. Really looking forward to seeing it. And do you find some of the big competition at the moment is non-Indigenous companies? Do you think that's a competitive advantage too?
Look, one of those things is you got to look at the background of the current Indigenous clothing wear that sort of, the Indigenous All-Stars. It's not backed and it's not really supported by anything Aboriginal. The profits, questionable where that goes. So again, with what we're trying to do here is create a sustainable business using and creating really, really cool stuff, as well as giving the money back to the community. So trying to support through education, through training, try and get some of, Aboriginal players, whether it be whatever sport it may be, to try and come back and, do some collab stuff there and try and get some, some education going there. So I definitely think that the big thing here is, for us, is having that twist of the community involvement in this. And I think that's absolutely vital to what we're doing here. Is we're doing it for the community rather than a business model. You propose this business model to anyone that's, I've got a half sustainable apparel business, and they'd be running a different way because of numbers. We're doing it because we really just love what we're doing. We love the art, the culture, and we just want to give back to the community.
Really cool. And can you give us some more insight? So you're developing technology now to take it to the next level. Is there a launch date, or how's that all progressing?
Yeah, so look, I'm in talks with a couple of really, really cool tech. So I work in the incubator lab as well. So pretty much I study full-time. I've got my business, which is running full-time for employees, and I'm currently working full-time in a corporate in a startup incubator. So we develop new products and learn a lot of cool stuff. I've got the support there, and I've proposed and shown everybody, what I've had in mind, and they are over the moon for it. We've got people. I've sat down and had a conversation with a couple of ladies from Google, and they're like, a Google shirt with some Aboriginal twist on it would look amazing. So that's something that we can also pursue. But yeah, we've got the backing of some great people that have advances in technology that these people are in talks of selling their businesses for over $40 million. And that's the technology we're looking at using. So really putting a twist on it, keeping costs down, but also making it a really, really cool product.
So you're going to buy their technology for $40 million?
Look, you know what? I'll have to dig deep, but look. At the end of the day, look, technology is one of those things. You either you get amongst it or you get left behind. And a great example would be Kodak. They were smashing it over the 80s and 90s, and then as soon as the millennials come in, they crashed. If you don't adjust, then you're going to have that problem. And I think with our competitors, they've got a major issue, and that issue is that they're not using technology to their advantage. And even if they did, they wouldn't be doing it to the level that we're going to be implementing. That's for sure.
I'm really excited for you, bro. I can't wait. Just with technology, because it's a big one. Do you see like challenges? We'll take a step back here, but challenges in communities with technology and potentially that digital divide increasing.
Yeah, look, I've read some studies on it, and I've also been out there. I've made sure that I've before I speak about anything to do with Aboriginal communities, I've driven right out into the centre of Australia. I've seen the smaller communities. I've spoke with the elders. Look, it is a massive issue. It's trying to keep everyone up to date with it as well. It's evolving so fast. But I think it's one of those things as well is, by evolving technology in smaller rural communities, it also gives them opportunity. So an example would be going out and realizing, how many Aboriginal artists are actually being taken advantage of for their art. And they're getting next to no money for what they're doing. They're putting in, hundreds of hours into artwork and getting paid $75 plus, some new paints and a brush. And to me, that's not acceptable. So by creating means of technology is creating opportunity, and that opportunity goes back into the community. So if they came out instead of $75 and actually got the $3,000 that they sell them for, how much would $3,000 help the socioeconomics of a small rural community? It's just unbelievable. It would help it immensely, and it's something that causes true to my heart.
Yeah, I think technology is a great enabler to actually help close the gap. Was that one of your passions when you went into these communities and found out some artists have been ripped off, that you wanted to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it angered me. It would absolutely anger me, because you would walk into the small little art stores that are in the center, Alice Springs, Uluru, and they look great and the lighting's fantastic, but you really have no idea that you're actually purchasing slave labor. They're getting paid well below the minimum wage for what they're doing. And I think it's, in this day and age, with how far we've come, for this to still be happening is just a total disgrace.
So true. Have you got any advice for the government? I saw recently on LinkedIn or something, they wanted to know, because the closing gap is at the 10-year anniversary, so they wanted feedback, what worked or what can be improved. So have you got any advice for them?
Look, my advice would be to not monopolize one of the big issues that I've realized is the government monopolized the distribution of visual art royalties. So when you sell a product, a piece of art or whatever, the artist is supposed to get a 5% commission no matter how far along for 70 years the artwork sold. But isn't it funny that in the same sense they're trying to close the gap, but they monopolize a law to give to a certain agency that has $15 million in the bank from unpaid royalties to artists that are 70% Aboriginal. So, I mean, it's not hard to really look at the bigger picture and think, how can we improve it when there's $15 million sitting in a bank account in unpaid royalties that, I think it's like 66% of them are Aboriginal artists.
And like you said, if they had that money in community, it could make such a big difference to keep it sustainable.
Oh, absolutely. And it's going directly into the community because it's going directly into the pockets of the artists and not having to go through, different divisions and government organizations. The other thing too is, when we're talking about technology, is that the only way you can actually claim these royalties is by going online to this certain agency and then going through the process, which involves technology. So it's one of those things. If you don't have it, then you're going to be left behind. And my big question is, where's this $15 million going? That's if it goes unclaimed, whose pocket does that go into?
Where's the $30 billion going to every year spent on Indigenous affairs? That's another question. Just to wrap up, because I got another one, 11. What's your future goals? Like, where's Dylan going? Because obviously you've got successful businesses now. Is your dream to take to the next level and be super successful in business and then give back to community?
Yeah. So my biggest thing here is I've come from probably one of, I call it the struggle street, and I've gone through significant changes in life with family and tragic and everything in between there. I can be the spokesman for many, many different varieties, whether it be mental health or whatnot. My aim here is to create such success that I am able to influence and mentor people that have come from the same struggle or worse or even better. It doesn't matter, no matter the struggle. So I can pretty much give them advice on how they can help improve their lives. So yeah, the ultimate goal for me is to ensure that, my work here isn't for me. It's not for me. I can live comfortably off tuna and rice. I don't need lobster and caviar. But what I do need is to make sure that I see more successful children coming out of these unfortunate circumstances that they're pushed into. And I need them to believe in themselves because it's completely possible. And I'm going to be there for that journey for them.
Awesome. Any final words to wrap up that maybe I missed?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I think we covered a large majority of it, but I think the big thing here is people really need to start undervaluing themselves. And I think people need to start respecting themselves. The one big issue that I commonly run into with people that are doing entrepreneurship is they study it, but they don't put it into real world terms. And the reason why is because they've got fear or they either don't respect themselves. And what I mean by respect themselves, because I want to be clear with this, is they don't respect their time. So they're quite happy to be pushed around and, peer pressured into going out on weekends and whatnot. Step up to the plate, get yourself involved and put your head down and get some work done. And I can tell you right now, if you don't and in a year's time you look back, you probably won't have a lot to show for it. But if you put your head down and you concentrate, I can guarantee you when you look back in a year's time, you wish that you didn't, because you're going to be so much happier. You're going to be looking at that, the bigger and brighter light. And I think that's super important.
That concludes today's episode of Indigipreneur. If you would like to know more about the exciting journey of Dylan Mottlee, connect with him on LinkedIn or Facebook. That's Dylan Mottlee, Mottlee. If you like this episode, please share it with friends or connect on social media at Indigipreneur, where you can find more episodes like this. This episode was brought to you by Zoe Dallin from Operation Move. Operation Move supports you to achieve your life goals and a happier life by providing online and in-person running coaching and personal training programs. Feel free to get in touch with her at zoe@operationmove.com.au or visit her website www.operationmove.com.au. Are you a young Indigipreneur? If yes, come along to our First Nations Youth Summit, which will be hosted in Brisbane on the 28th to 29th of June. It's an opportunity to connect with other First Nations youth, create new professional networks, and learn new skills you can take back to your community. For more information, please go to the website at firstnationsyouthsummit.com.